I have to say, Val, and I'm going to say this out loud too, is whenever I think of you in hockey gear on Halloween.
I still have that picture somewhere. The best part is my son plays goalie now.
Oh, cool. So we should have everyone here except for Lenore. Babette may be running late. So we should have at least 7 board members. Oh, there's Christina. Oh, Maria. Great. We're all here. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's 4:01. I want to say that given that Sam and Christina need to leave early, I'm going to suggest that we rearrange the agenda and do the resolutions first after the consent agenda, and then have, in some ways, work our way backwards so that we hit all the important things, all the things that require discussion. I should put it that way, because reports actually are important, very important. But everything that requires discussion, try to get them in before 5 o'clock. And so I'd like to start with the consent agenda. If someone would like to move that. We have a board absence in January, and which is Babette, and a board absence for February, which is Lenore.
I'll move it.
Ed, thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second, Tim.
Tim, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. I think I heard enough voices on that one. Okay, so let's go to the resolutions.
No, what about the minutes? Or did you intend both?
I attended both.
Well, may I just add one thing then? in the minutes, I think the minutes need a correction. And well, it's actually a clarification. Under the executive director's report, it talks about the approval of the Pettit branch for 950, which is accurate in terms of the bonding. But the total cost of the project is 1,544,229. I think it should just note that. So with that,
Okay, I think that I was reporting back about the bond that we had done through the county,
no,
which would have been
you
that
don't need to, you don't need to
950.
explain. I'm just telling you that the minutes should reflect the total cost of the project, which is 1,544,229.
Okay. You got it, Dan.
So with that,
Okay.
I would move the minutes as amended.
So Ed, what you're saying is that the county approved
The
950,000.
bond, the resolution states the total cost of the project, which is 1,544,229, of which 950 were to be bonded for. The balance is state aid.
Okay. So do we want to, so there's two ways. Do we want to amend the minutes or do you want to make that part of this month's minutes?
You can just, he can, as long as he voted to amend that one thing, I just adjust it and it can go.
Okay, thank you. Okay, to this month's resolutions. And again, want to do these while we have enough people to vote. We have a resolution 2201, which deals with the removal of several policies from the website. And what I'd like to do is have someone move it so then we can move to discussion.
I'll move it.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Etta, thank you. So, Christian, can you talk to us about these policies and the removal? I think give us a brief overview so we all have the same understanding.
Sure, absolutely. So one of the things that I know that there were a couple of things that we were discussing about sunsetting. One of them was our MOU. I know that there was a clarification on that we can just update that, so we don't need to worry about that one so much. There was the request to speak, which isn't something that we've really been following for some time. And so I guess I just kind of felt like, given that we have these open Zoom meetings, we have a lot of people present in a lot of our meetings. We've gone to fairly open meetings. We're very tied to open meeting laws. I just saw that as kind of an outdated policy that we could do away with. And then the request to speak form was was kind of a hook onto that. It was dependent on that. And then there's a I believe there's a customer service policy, which is in there. It's not really a policy. It's so much as just kind of a procedural thing that I just kind of wanted to make people aware of, that we were sunsetting. And I think that's the majority of it. I think that's the heart of it, right, Jill?
There's also the path to excellence.
That's the one. That's kind of the customer service manual that I was talking about. It's quite an old document. I don't know that it was ever done by the board, but it was kind of in our list of documents, and I just wanted to put it out. There's a lot of good stuff in it, but it's I think it's from like a couple of directors ago. It's a little bit out of date. Some of the stuff in it is dated. It would make a great base of a conversation for another kind of discussion. But right now that needs to be sunset.
Okay. You're breaking
Sorry, I
up a
think
lot, by
you're
the way.
losing me. So I'm going to go closer to my router.
Okay.
If you'll just excuse me for one. Yep, that's what I'm going to go and try and address. Excuse me.
So Christian's correct. We have not, since I've been on the board, used the public comment policy, the way it's written, or the intent to speak form. I don't want to go into the legalness of the intricacies of public meeting law, but it's good to allow the public to speak. There's different ways of doing it, but also boards do not have to. So it's an interesting balance there. It's something that we should think about in terms of, not today, but think about in the future in terms of organizing our meetings. But again, we have not used those policies, and they are outdated. In addition, they are also outdated. So that's the public comment policy and the intent to speak form. The path to excellence is actually, if I look at that, kind of an early almost related to a strategic plan of ish in 2009. And the community profiles policy had to do with something in Polaris that we never implemented. So I don't know if there's any questions or comments on those.
My suggestion will be that in the future, like for next year calendar, maybe we can put 2 times a year, maybe 5 minutes to answer a question that maybe be emailed prior the meeting, and just have 2 times a year somebody want to have a question and we can address them ahead of time.
Yeah, it would have to be, really, it should be something every meeting that we build in, but it also means kind of rethinking our meetings in terms of how we build that in. We've tried to keep the meetings to 1 hour and 15 minutes.
Yes.
That could potentially make the meetings longer. And we'd probably have to think about a new policy also around
Yes,
that. But you're right, building something in
Yeah.
would be great.
I know the school board where I belong, they do it like 2 times a year, at least 5
Mm.
minutes. Somebody have a question, we answer. Somebody have no question, we just move on to the meeting.
Oh, interesting, interesting. Any other comments about these policies? Any concerns about sunsetting them?
Just, I guess, in terms of optics of removing a bunch of policies that seem to allow for people to speak, and do we just have any note that we can make that clarifies that we still support people being able to speak in some way?
So I think we can put in that we will work on something that actually fits the way this board operates.
Maybe just add that this is not not intending to bowdlerize public comment.
Not intending to what?
Bowdlerize, censor public comment.
For those of you who are relatively new on the board, when we met in person, we would get more comments from people. Meeting online has made it, I think, harder for a little bit of that give and take. I assume that it will come back once we are back in person. So would someone like to call the question?
I'll call the question with that proviso that we make it clear that we're not trying to censor public comments. We're looking to just change this in the future.
So
Make accommodation for next calendar year, for next year. We revise
So-
it for next year.
So Etta, it doesn't have to wait until next year.
Okay,
It's something that we can do this year. So we'll make sure that the minutes note that we're not trying to stifle communications with the public, and that we will work on creating a policy, a method, a procedure that works the way this board actually does work.
Anybody that thinks that must not know Jill very well. that we're trying to stifle any comments. Okay, I call the question.
Okay, if people on the board would open up your microphones. Sorry, get my list. Etta? Voting, are you yes or
Yes.
no?
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes,
Christina,
Yes.
Maria?
Yes.
Is Babette here yet? No, I'm also a yes. I believe that passes. Yes, thank you. Resolution 2202 reads, resolved that the OCPL Board of Trustees accepts the grant funds from the CLRC initiative grant for $1,500 for creation of a monthly teen book box service for grades 6 through 12 for OCPL City. For those of you who don't know, CLRC is a Central New York Library Resources Council. It's a multi-type library consortium that works across several counties in our area, and they do receive funding, state funding, and they provide grants. And so we did a grant application, and now we're receiving the funds from that grant. So I read it. Anybody want to move it?
moved.
Do I hear a
Second.
second? Oh, Christina, thank you.
Hi.
Any discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. Etta,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes,
Christina,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
and I'm also yes. Thank you. The final resolution, and there is a document that goes with this, concerns, it's resolution 2203. Resolved that the OCPL Board of Trustees approves a total expenditure of $17,425 from the board's unrestricted funds to cover the costs of the system retreat, which is $6,325, OCPL Staff Development Day, $6,000 even, and for corporate wellness for OCPL, I'm assuming the OCPL City, that's $5,100. Will someone move this?
I move it.
Etta, thank you. Do I hear a second? And do I hear a second? Sorry.
I think we might want to discuss it. I think that's why there's not a second.
We have to have a second to discuss.
I'll do, for that purpose, I'll do it, Tim.
Thank you. Okay, so let's open this up for discussion. And so there's three pieces, if we can take them. I don't know if we want to take them one by
I'm
one. or
available
take them
if
as
you'd
a
like
group.
me to. I don't know if you want me to walk the group through this, but I'd be happy to walk you through it if there's interest for that.
do we just have the comparison with what we've spent in the past on similar events, just as a comparison?
We authorized $750 before, is that right? Was that based on something?
So we have in our budget in December set aside $750 for the retreat, staff retreat. I don't know if there's funding from the county that goes for these. And I don't know what these have cost in the past. I don't, Christian, do you or someone else perhaps have information that would help us?
Well, I don't actually have funds for what they cost in the past. I did see that there was $750 budgeted. I guess I see this in a slightly different way. I see this as an investment in staff after a difficult time. I see this as kind of 2 or 3 years worth of training. I see this as 2 or 3 years worth of investment in our staff. And as such, I think these numbers are pretty okay for what we're offering them. I've done some training events. I don't, $750 is not very much to do a training event for people involving speakers and feeding people and that kind of stuff. And, I guess I was just kind of hoping that we could take a moment and invest in our staff, invest in our people, invest in our organizations, and have that be what we focus on with these trainings. So that was the thought process. Obviously this is a different ask than we've done in the past. I fully recognize that, but I think it's a pretty good ask for where we are right now and what we could possibly achieve.
Christian,
Oh, sorry.
is there any funding from the county budget that goes towards the the system retreat and staff development day?
No, Mark and I are going to look into that a little bit more carefully, but certainly nothing like what we're asking for here. And I wouldn't, if we're looking to have the county pick up the tab on this, then we're just simply not going to have the same kind of event. And if we don't have the board buy-in, then there's really no other source of funds for this kind of thing at this level. So if the board chooses to not support it, that's fine, but we will not be able to have the similar kinds of events from other funding sources.
Jill,
So we're
I don't think public funds have supported this in the past, which is not to say I'm against this. I just think it's always been, my recollection, it's always been supported by board funds.
That's what I've been informed as well. Is that in the past, this has typically been supported by the board.
Knowing that this is training, it would be something that I would assume would also be part of the normal budget from the county. But anyway, I'll set that aside. Christina had her mic open.
I think I wanted to make sure that it was clear, Christian. It's not that we don't support it. We just want to figure out the best way to handle it. And I know certainly as we hopefully move towards an endemic status, we want to recognize the hard work and we want to have an opportunity for the team to sort of build morale and be together. And I certainly think that there's value for that. I think we just have to think about how we're able to cover some of those expenses really in a way that we're all comfortable with. And so I think that that's just what we want to talk about here.
Well, and I appreciate that, Christina. I do. I do appreciate that. In the past, I've asked you folks to support some snacks for the staff. That did not really get a lot of support from the board. I went to you guys to talk about some coffee urns, and that didn't really get a lot of support from the board. So I just want to kind of put this back on you folks about I really would like to see kind of a commitment from the board for our staff. And I guess I just see this as that. So, but I understand, it certainly is a much larger ask and it's certainly much different from what we've done in the past. So I understand that would cause some sticker shock and some concern that way. So thank you.
Can you just clarify?
I thought we passed those other
yeah, we
items
did
you
support
mentioned.
the other
Oh, I'm
items.
sorry. I apologize. Yeah, you did on the urns and everything that went through, but that kind of came out of a clear money. We didn't have a big discussion about that. I apologize. And then on the snacks thing, it was just kind of, we had a very active conversation about not very much money. So you're absolutely right. This is something that you guys have definitely supported in the past. And it's made it definitely a big difference for staff morale. So I really appreciate that. I didn't mean to dismiss that or diminish that in any way. I apologize.
Christian, is the staff retreat also at Apex?
No, that would be something that we'd be doing at Central.
Okay. And so I just have two other questions before
Sure,
I
of course.
I'll hand it over to someone else. For the system retreat, how many people do you expect for that?
I think we're expecting around 40, I think is between 30 and 40, but I'm not exactly sure. Again, I recognize that it's a large expenditure.
Yeah.
For a per head. So I recognize that too.
And then the staff development day, that would be everyone, which is about.
Yeah, that would be about 150 or so. 150 or so would be the estimate.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, no problem. And again, I apologize for the lack of clarity there. I'm sorry.
So who comes to the system retreat? So the system retreat's only about 40?
Yeah, it's the directors and senior management of the member libraries.
Okay, thank you.
It's essentially a member director meeting that then has extra stuff, and we do some training in it and that kind of stuff as well, and team building and morale and that kind of thing.
So is the funding from taxpayers' money?
No, we're asking for money from the donations to the library that the trustees are holding. So from the C3 funds, essentially, Maria.
Other questions?
Jill, I'd be happy to review other funding sources. I know that that's stuff that folks want us to take a look at and that we haven't really delved too deeply in on this round of the proposal. I did touch base with Mark. We're happy to go back through that. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to come up with much, and we'll probably end up with a slightly different day. But if you'd like to, different look for the day. But if you'd like to table this, or if you'd like to hold off on this package on the final vote, we can do that. Or if you're more comfortable, we could just vote it down and we'll submit another package for next month.
Jill, I have a question.
Sure.
So is this, I just had to switch over and take a quick look at the resolution or the breakdown. So is this an all or nothing package? I mean, is there a reason why we're taking them all three together? And I don't want to, I mean, they look equivalent, and I'm not quibbling over the purpose. I'm just wondering procedurally, is there a reason why we've got all three of these? Does they look
Tim,
like three separate?
Yeah, Tim, it's an ease of use thing, honestly, for the board. I apologize for that, for the confusion on that. It would be easy enough to pull the wellness out, but I kind of saw the wellness as being a part of the larger package, and something that I was hoping we could introduce at Staff Development Day. Staff Development Day and the System Retreat are kind of a package because they happen in the same week. We're looking at the same speaker package, and I was kind of trying to make an equivalent package for staff and member directors. So that's why, I mean, I would be happy to break it out into 3 different resolutions for next month if that's easier. But I was kind of doing it as a of type sort of thing.
Right. Okay. So if I'm reading it correctly, the items, the staff development and related item are the day that we close the facilities for the staff to, like they do for schools, to have staff development. And the wellness is a little bit different piece. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The wellness is a year-long projected program that would have an average of like 50 participants and have some promos for that and that kind of thing. That is actually a completely different part. The only day in there that we actually close to the public is Staff Development Day. We don't close for the System Retreat. That's just a top-level management kind of thing.
And those are on 2 different occasions.
Yes, sir. One is on a Tuesday, one is on a Friday of that same week.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly, sir. Sorry.
So Christian, how did you decide on the speakers? Was there a committee from the employees? I mean, how did it all, you said you were going to have X throwing and bowling and laser tag. So is it?
Yeah, those were really, Maria, those were really just for fun, to be kind of working on morale with the different member directors. The speakers that we brought in are speakers who we've brought in the past. The Noble Jennings Bay has spoken about kind of street advocacy and street addiction. He did an excellent talk at the New York Library Association. I was hoping to bring him in. We had one of the member directors there, Glenna, from Liverpool was there. She really, really liked what he had to say, had a lot of positive things to say. So I was bringing him in to share with the member directors. And then we were having his people, who are the unbelievable folks, the CET team, come and discuss de-escalation. There's a lot of interest in the member libraries, in the work that we're doing in the city with the de-escalation with the CET teams, and how they are functioning as a security force or a non-security force by de-escalation and avoiding security to begin with. So that was kind of it, was that I'd had a lot of people express a lot of interest in those two folks. And honestly, I was hoping that we could get Tim at a relatively decent rate and have him just kind of come in and drop in on the 2 different days. So.
Sam?
Jill, I might be, Sam's hand's up, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think along with what Tim had mentioned, I think it would make sense to break these things up into 3 pieces. I'd like to have a sense for how this compares to previous years, to the degree that anyone has the information on that. I'm not sure about the paddle rackets or the water bottles, and so I think that's worth some consideration. And then in terms of wellness, I don't know how much the county's health insurance provides some of the things that are mentioned in there already. And so it'd be nice to get some clarification on that as well. I don't need an answer right this second, but I think before I can support it and just talking about it next month, having that information would be useful.
Sure, Sam. I'd be happy to pull all that out for you and, get as many answers for you as I can. That all seems to make a lot of sense.
So Sam, I can tell you that I went to 2 of these events in the past, and they were done very inexpensively. And probably were not as good for team building as they could have been. I'm trying to get the wording in my head. So the one year OCPL did a staff retreat at Onondaga County Community College in the gym. And I don't remember anything about food. I'm sure there was food, but they did the poverty simulation. And so that was really not really a whole day, but I think morning, and I think some people stayed for the afternoon is my memory. The same year they did a system retreat. I don't think that was heavily attended, because I remember they did the poverty simulation again for the system, and because of the number of people they needed for the event, they actually invited library staff from Pioneer Library System to come over and do the poverty simulation. And that was held at WCNY, which I'm sure because of our board member, we were able to get for free. So we have not really done, that one was not like a ton of money. And my suspicion is that OCPL has always tried to do things inexpensively in the past on those. I'm not sure if this is the right cost, the right amount that we want to spend. But I will echo that this is probably a good time to treat the system people and the staff a bit better retreat-wise than we've done in the past.
Yep, agree. I think just having the context, given that we previously approved a minuscule amount compared to what this proposal is, I think just having some context around why that significant increase makes for things to be better, what the outcomes that we would expect to have from that would be helpful, just to be able to make a better decision on this.
And I think this gets at, looking forward, budget-wise, what we might allocate in future years, so that, again, maybe not this amount, but something that would ensure that these days are structured well for staff and for the system. Ed?
Jill, two things. One is that I think when this comes back, and I'm sure we're going to want to move this forward, I wouldn't want any of this conversation to be interpreted as not being supportive of staff. And that's one. And second, actually two other things. One is I think we might think about purchasing some tickets to a couple of the upcoming focal lectures and using those as a giveaway, not to the entire crowd, but maybe as part of a simple drawing, maybe a dozen tickets or something in groups of two. And third, I'd like to suggest that we randomly have some of the participants give us an evaluation.
So Ed, I'm sure Focal would appreciate us funding people to go to Focal.
And
And
perhaps
I,
we could get a little bit of a discount there, Kim. And
but I can imagine, that's something that we might offer as something for these two retreats is a raffle of tickets for next year. Tim, you have your hand up.
Yeah, two things. I think that we've, in my opinion, exhausted the discussion on this, and whatever the proper procedure is to table it with the and I don't want to echo Ed's sentiment. I belong to a
Why
large
not?
statewide organization. I belong to a large statewide organization. We've had several of these retreats, and I've been with it for 23 years. And when we've done it, it definitely has paid a lot of benefits for both professionally and personally. So I just want to be clear and echo what Ed, I think Sam is saying, is that in particular, we support this concept. I don't want Christian to get the idea we don't want to see staff's morale supported and boosted. It's just more about our due diligence on how the finances are being worked.
Tim, thank you. So I think I'm sensing that to table this for a month, gather a little bit more information.
maybe Christian could just withdraw it and bring it back next month. So we don't have to vote.
Sure, Ed, I'd be happy to do that. I don't know what the best procedural thing would be for that. I'm not sure if you could advise me on that, but I'd be happy to withdraw it and fill it out for further.
I think with consensus and no one objecting, you could just say, I withdraw the
Great.
request until the following month.
Well, and
Sure.
I think especially because if you're going to break them out into three, this should be withdrawn if you're going to break them out to three resolutions. Okay,
Sure. So I'll just withdraw it for this time for further, information and revisement for next month.
Christian, if you want to talk, we can talk about some information needs or whatever, so that come back with a proposal next month that gets voted thumbs up from everyone. Okay. I want to be, so thank you for that. And thank you for the discussion. What I sense is that everyone wants to do the right thing. And I think that's the important part of this. But a little bit more information is always good when we talk about money. And, but I know from the board, and I can see all your faces, that we really do want to support staff and we want to support the system. So these are two important activities for doing that. And again, and the wellness thing, we just want to make sure that we have our ducks in a row going forward. Okay, in terms of flipping the agenda, there are two discussion topics that I think we should probably do now. Well, I'm sure we have all of our board members here. One is the pop-up library, and there is a pre-read for that one. And the other is the book challenge policy. Christian?
Hey, folks, I can speak to both of those. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I don't have the information that we need to really fully engage in a conversation about the book challenge policy. We had discussed this, I think, about 2-3 months ago now. And in it, we looked at our current policy. Our current policy functions, but it is nested in an older document from 1995 and is actually tied closely to some ALA documents. Because of this, it actually is still fairly up to date. However, pulling it out and having it be independent of all these other documents is actually being a little bit more nuanced than I at first thought that it would be. So unfortunately, I don't have a revised version of that to submit to you folks. We are still under our old policy. It does still function. We had a person express the beginnings of a concern about a challenge this month. I was able to have a conversation with this person via email. I got some feedback from some other staff members, and they helped me craft a response. And the person kind of went away kind of quickly. Their main concern was that they wanted to make sure that materials weren't in children's sections and that kind of stuff, and teen sections, and this particular title wasn't. So that went away pretty quickly. I'd like to work up a more refined document. This is going to be an important document, so I'd like to work up a more refined version and submit it to all of you next month for a deeper consideration, and I apologize for that. The pop-up library, honestly, this is just an informational thing on a project that that our team is kind of in the early stages of developing. We saw some success with it at the Salt City Market. We did an early version there. We've had some good success there for outreach and programming. This gives us an opportunity to drop into a lot of communities. It's something that there will be a lot more information as we go along with. We will also have a lot more information on budgeting and pricing on that as time goes by as well. Really, I just kind of wanted to give the board an update that this is something that we're kind of interested in pursuing or starting to develop conceptually. And just kind of get your blessing before we start running down numbers and start getting into the intricacies of what this would look like.
Christian, thank you. First of all, thank you for information on the book challenge policy, and I look forward to seeing that next month. And
So just on the book challenge, if you remember, we did pass the NYLA statement as a board at least 1 or maybe 2 months ago.
yes, we passed the NYLA statement, but that's not the book challenge policy.
I understand,
Yeah.
but that's certainly pertinent.
Yes. So on the pop-up library, I see Sam's hand up. I don't know if that's on this. Okay, Sam, go ahead.
So I think first, on the read of the short overview, it sounds good. There are a few things that seem pretty critical in need of information before I would feel comfortable giving a blessing, although I'm not sure like specifically what that would mean here. But there is a key part that talks about staffing that I think needs to be worked out before anything goes forward. It seems like it may be volunteer staff led, which potentially seems problematic, and you call out a need for HR details there. So that I would want to see, at least as initial partnership. I know that there's that there was potential partnership with Center State or Downtown Committee, which is, I guess, okay, although I think that we have a pretty great downtown library. And so understanding the need for the pop-up library, like, is there a part of the city that we feel like is being, a branch needs some other, is overwhelmed and so needs another place to go? Or is there another part of the city where people can't easily access a branch library, and so we want to focus there? I would want some additional information there. And then I think the last thing that I would challenge here is, with an understanding that maybe it takes 18 months to have things totally complete. I think if we as a board, or at least me, to vote to approve anything, I'd want to see progress much more quickly than 18 months. Some ability to understand, is this the right path forward? Some understanding from the community about, is this something that people want or need? And so having some more, I think, on the upfront, and then some quicker kind of delivery of what things look like is what I would want to see.
Thanks, Sam. I appreciate the feedback. We'll try and get you some updates, next month for more information that way.
Christian, is the unit at Salt City Market an alpha version, a beta version?
The unit at Salt City Market was developed before I got there. Before I got here, honestly, this came up in conversation. We were kicking ideas around and somebody said, hey, I think we have one of these units already in existence downstairs in storage. I believe it was Becky McGuire who we just grabbed her and, she found the unit and then we applied it pretty quickly.
Sorry, I used the word unit and that's not the word I should have used. Is the effort at Salt City Market an alpha, kind of a beginning of testing or a beta, or, kind of where's that along the path of developing the pop-up libraries?
I mean, I think it was an opportunity for us to try and do a new partnership with a new partner. I wouldn't, I wouldn't. Circulation services are kind of the most basic services of libraries. So having a static library where people, take away books, I would hope that the pop-up libraries would be potentially a little bit more than that. But as a beginning outreach service, it worked well for staff morale, which is something that I think we've been looking at as well. People enjoyed the process of it, which is a big part of these pop-up processes as well. So, I mean, I don't know that I would call it an alpha or a beta or a bench test or any of those things. I see it as kind of just we had the unit, we thought we'd see how it worked. We gave it a try. It worked okay. It's probably cycling through to the end of its service life, and we may be looking at the next thing, and we'll figure that out as we go. I mean, we have much better contacts now with Salt City Market. I just got an email from their head of operations about doing some programming coming up in the spring. So I think that it has done its work there. But what's next for it is kind of the next question. I don't know that I see that as being a permanent installation, if that's the question. I think we can probably do more with the unit.
Christian, thanks. Yeah, I didn't think it was a permanent installation. Being a pop-ups do move. So, but thank you for the update.
Which isn't to say that it wouldn't be worth our while to just drop a little mini library in there or a micro library. We could do our own version of a little free library. That's easy enough, but this is probably a nicer piece of fixture than we need to use for that. So there may be better solutions for that. I don't know that I want to lose that territory, but I don't know that I want to dedicate that unit to it either.
Other questions? So the one other question, Christian, that comes to mind is who are you in contact with, or who can we help you get in contact with to develop, as this develops, to get pop-up libraries in neighborhoods of color?
Sure. Well, that's absolutely a response. One of the things that we want to do is reach out to some of the developing communities, some of the community centers, some of the community-driven community centers. So these are all, this is all pretty easy stuff for us to get into. And that's the beauty of this unit. That would also be the beauty of us getting a bookmobile. I mean, this is all kind of the same thing of how we are, how we can be, agile, strategic, and tactical about how we are providing services to all of our communities, and here in Syracuse, there's certainly a lot of communities that we could reach that way. It sounds to me like, again, this might be another, I withdraw this from the board at this time to, answer some of the concerns. I know Sam sounded like he had some pretty substantive concerns that were, that certainly bear looking into. So if it is the will of the board, I'm happy to withdraw this from this time, and we can kind of run down some more answers and see what we can do about getting some substantive responses to the concerns that have been raised.
So Christian, I'd like to actually offer something different. I think this is a great informational piece, and I think it shows the direction, one of the directions that you want to take OCPL in. And I think we can receive it as a report, recognizing that There will be further updates as this idea develops further. We would look forward to hearing about partnerships, about what this develops. And if there is something that we need to vote on, we can do that. But I don't think that we actually need to vote.
You are correct.
I'm happy to submit an update to the body next month if that's something folks are interested in, and we can go forward from there, at the will and the comfort of the board.
And what would we be voting on at that point? I guess I'm confused. I mean, I saw a proposal, but is the ask that we're just letting you go and do this, or are we like approving money?
Honestly, Sam, I didn't want to surprise the board by developing, something into timelines, schedules, budgets, locations, partnerships, and then have the board be uncomfortable with the project at its basis. And then pull that back was really kind of the thought behind that. So, I mean, I think on this, what I'm looking for is the approval to just continue exploring this idea, to allow our team to continue to explore this idea with updates and policies and things to come, as they come. When the time comes that we're going to actually build the units, we're going to have conversations around that in pretty substantive ways when that comes as well. But I just want you folks to be informed about it. I don't want us to go a year into developing this project as an organization and then catch you by surprise and not have addressed the issues that you're concerned about, and the issues that you're sharing your concerns about now, that I think are all very relevant, that should be, addressed early on. But really, Sam, this is just kind of a heads up. We want to look at this thing and just making sure that you folks were aware of that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Anything else before we move on? And again, Christian has said that he will be bringing us further information as this progresses. So this will not be the only time that we talk about pop-up libraries. So moving backwards to the agenda, or forwards to the agenda, Dane Dell is, I think, here somewhere. There he is. And Dane is going to talk to us this month about what he does. He provided an extensive report of what OCPL and his group have done in 2021. It brought big smiles to my face. And so, Dane, I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Jill. Can everyone hear me? I think so.
Yes.
Thank you, Jill, and thanks for everyone inviting me to speak and present. I'll try to make this really quickly because I know everyone's crunched for time. You saw that document, and it's just a little bit of what we do and a lot of the highlights we had last year, but it's a lot of work that we are really proud of. We've got a really good team here, and just for background, I'm the Director of Library Information Systems, so I have some supervisory responsibilities for several teams, but probably the biggest responsibility that I oversee is our Polaris Integrated Library Management System. So for those who don't know, the Polaris system basically is our enterprise level software that manages the acquisition, cataloging, and then ultimately the circulation of library materials throughout the county libraries. So Polaris touches every library, and so it is a system service that we provide to all our libraries. So that's one of the biggest responsibilities that myself and my team have. We also provide IT support pretty much for the OCPL city libraries, but to a lesser extent to the member libraries for the computers that the workstations we provide for interacting with Polaris. Everything from our public technology services like Wi-Fi, internet, public PCs. We manage those. And then, you know, there's even special programs like the Tech Pack program. I spent a lot of time administering that. You know, I have administrative duties as one of the administrators for the system. So I serve on a lot of committees, MOU committee, ILS review committee, point of plan of service committee, you know, occasionally hiring committees. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff we do. I've been here for about 4 years now. This is my 4th year. And it's been a really full experience. We had a lot of things. We've had a pandemic, we've had a cyber attack, we've had a lot of crazy things, but it's been overall a very positive experience. So I really appreciate the work we do here for the public, for the staff. The way I see it is that the work we do, we hope to provide a better experience for technology experience for the staff, which hopefully will then be converted to a better experience for the library patrons. So a lot of the work we do is geared towards that. And yeah, that's my background. I've also had some experiences that probably someone in my position does not typically have. For example, I oversaw delivery for about a year, our delivery service. And then during that time also, I did I managed a construction project where we renovated the central library basement. So that was very interesting and really good experience. So all things I appreciate. So, you know, I work a lot with our other administrators, branch administrators, our CFO, Mark, and, you know, Christian, of course, you know, branch managers. We really try to get an idea of what our library staff needs are. I work a lot with the member directors to find out what pain points they're having at their libraries, and try to make sure that the ILS is supporting the initiatives that they want to put forth in their libraries. And yeah, it's really good work. It really fits my background, and so I'm happy.
Dane, the one thing I have told students in the past is that a library is built on databases. And especially if I'm trying to talk them into taking a database course. But libraries are built on technology. And so reading the report that you gave about 2021 really shows your integration, your team's integration into everything that OCPL does. So thank you for the work. Thank you for the report. Ed?
Yes, this is a question for Dr. Dell. Everybody may not know that he's a PhD from Syracuse University when we hired him. And we're proud of him, and he's done well, and he's a new father and all that. But my question has to do, Dane, with, I think you were just on board when we had the malware incident and the shutdown.
Yeah.
Can you give us any assurance without getting into detail about close cooperation with county IT and close monitoring of our systems and emails to try to avoid that occurring again?
Yeah, you know, I work a lot with, that's another group that I work a lot with, our county IT department. So I've got a good rapport with our CIO, Kevin Sexton, and you know, I think that incident was actually a really, it was a painful process, but it was actually a really positive thing for not just for us, but for the county in general, because I think it allowed us to identify a lot of the security vulnerabilities that needed to be shored up. It allowed us to integrate some new technologies that would help support a stronger infrastructure. And yeah, I think, you know, things have been going very well on that front. We've had a lot more more of a dialogue, I would say, with the county IT department when it comes to kind of checking in on each other and you know, making sure that we're still in sync, and you know, our systems are and our protocols are in alignment with sort of best practices. So those all serve for made for a better and a stronger system ultimately.
Thank you.
Maria.
Dane, I think this is a great report. I was just wondering, what do you see as your incentives for next year? Like, what do you want to do for this school, I should say this year coming up? Where do you want to see the library going towards as far as IT is concerned?
Yeah, we've got some more infrastructure work to do. So we've got a few projects that we're working on right now. One of the major ones is to we're transitioning a lot of our servers to off-site hosted services, and that's gonna, I think, allow more time for our staff to kind of concentrate on some of the more immediate issues that come up from a day-to-day standpoint. We've started that process maybe a year ago, and we're moving forward in that, but we're also updating a lot of our this is all boring stuff, by the way, but we're updating a lot of our equipment that's nearing end of life, and that's, you know, ultimately gonna, you know, give us more power in some of these services. It's also gonna, you know, help with security. It's also gonna help with continuity of services. So, you know, infrastructure wise, definitely focus on that. And one of our major ones, service wise, to our library staff, we're implementing a ticketing system. And that's something I think will give us greater visibility of and issue tracking capabilities. So, you know, I really focused on just kind of keeping our services in a place where they're, you know, we've got less downtime, and we've got more time staff-wise to kind of fight the fires that come up day to day.
Thank you. I don't think it's boring. I think if we didn't have IT during this pandemic, we wouldn't be doing very well at all. So I think you're very, very important.
Other questions or comments for Dane? Dane, at some point this year, I hope that you can come back and you and Christian or you and someone else or whoever, and talk about Polaris, because Polaris is so important to the services that OCPL provides, but it's not a system that most people see all of or understand, you know, all the pieces of. And I think given the cost of Polaris and given its importance to the MOU, I think maybe that would be something worthwhile us understanding a bit more as a board.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, everyone.
Bill, maybe a demonstration at some point apart from the meeting would be useful down the road. In other words, we come in and Dane can give us a demo and take a little bit more time than we can cover in a meeting.
Yeah. Awesome. If we're also if we're in person, it'd be a bit easier, I suspect. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so Dane, thank you. Thank you for that. So we have a number of board reports, that came to the board this month. I don't know if there's anything here in pre-reads that we want to discuss? I'm just kind of throwing it open.
Jill, there's a reference to book challenges in Baldwinsville. And I wanted to commend Meg Van Patten because I thought, at least the way I read it, she stood her ground and handled it very well. And she's been around and seen much. So I'm sure that has something to do with how well she handled it, but I want to commend her.
Thank you. Yes, I have been around for a few years. And actually tomorrow morning, I have an interview with a journalism student from SUNY Oswego who's going to do a story that'll be either in their student paper or in a local paper as well. And I've received lots of positive comments, including when I did the OCP or the NYLA, letter to the legislator. When Bill Magnarelli sent the standard thank you thing, he actually wrote a note at the bottom. He had read it, appreciated it, and offered support if we ever needed.
Good to hear. One of the things that stood out to me was about delivery. And so as Amanda Schiavoli noted, that the delivery numbers are the best ever. They're the best that I remember seeing in terms of number of days in transit. And so I know that hiring Jesse was important to that. There's, I'm sure, other things that come into play in terms of those delivery numbers, but delivery has been something that has been important to the members as well as to the branches. And so those numbers were very good to see. Otherwise, something that, Ed, go ahead, sorry.
Well, pertinent to that, it reminded me, Jill, last month I had asked Mark or Christian to furnish some info about our delivery vehicles, which I did receive a few days ago. And then, at least at a quick glance, it doesn't look like we're in imminent danger of needing to do something immediately, but I think it's something we'll want to monitor again by this summer to think about in the 2023 budget. And if not, then later, but it's so fundamental that we need to watch it periodically.
And so my assumption is that those vehicles are funded by the county. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, through the budget, yes. So partially county and whatever other sources.
The only other note I have is last year, we voted on going fine-free in the city. I don't have that resolution in front of me, but I know that the county executive is looking to actually announce that. We thought perhaps with his state of the county address, and I don't know where that stands. Christian, do you have an update on that?
I do. Val's been talking to the county executive's communication director to see how we can coordinate our announcement. I think they may be interested in possibly doing even an individual press conference. I'm not quite sure. And one of the things that they were looking for as well was seeing just how much money is out there, how much money we can say that we've waived, how many people we can say that we have cleared fines from, and that kind of thing. Mark has been doing a lot of work in that. Zach did a bunch of work at that, looking at that in Polaris. We're also looking with the folks who do the collections to kind of see where those numbers are. I hope to be able to have all those numbers pulled together and available to you folks. One of the things that Mark and I have been looking at is, whether these were things that we need to look to next year's budget to try and fill the holes for and fills the gaps for. Honestly, we never really get that money back. So it's kind of a hard thing to schedule and, schedule a budget based off of. So that's kind of where we're at. We have a couple of still small moving parts, but they're moving together quite well. And the hope is that when we can coordinate with the county exec, then we'll be able to inform you folks a little bit more about exact numbers of fines and costs and people freed from the bondage of library find and all that, which would be lovely. And then we can, we can make the announcement from there. Everything seems to be going quite well on it, though, if rather slowly. It's really a large undertaking, actually, to kind of change the way that we interact with our public that way. And everybody's been really, really helpful, and I've been really appreciated that process.
Thanks for the update. If you need me to update the letter to the editor, just let me know.
Jill, I'll be getting you those stats as soon as I can. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. As you said, a lot of moving parts. Ed, you have your hand up?
Maybe I didn't put my hand down from previous. I could comment on almost anything, but I'm not going to.
Well, so I'll just ask if there's any more comments, questions about the other pre-reads. I don't want to belabor the point. I will say that every time I look at the pre-reads, I'm amazed at the amount of work that's happening in OCPL. All the different departments, the hiring that's happening, the programs that are happening. And so it always does my heart good to look at the pre-reads. And I know for some other board members, I saw Maria nod her head, the pre-reads are really a delight to go through. The other, the other pre-read, sorry, that we got was from Focal and the next author, which Maria holds up the poster. So the next author is coming in March, if I understand. Kim, do you want to say anything about him?
Everybody should have gotten the poster, but Dr. Eddie Glaud's our next March 9th author. It's a Wednesday. Let me just say that. Typically our authors are on Tuesday, but he was available on Wednesday. His most recent book is a 2020 book, Begin Again, and he is a frequent contributor on MSNBC. He's quite prevalent as a commentator. So we're excited to host him. I think it's going to be a great evening. So feel free to share the flyer and promote it amongst organizations or groups that you think. There's a QR code on there that provides ticketing information. And we also have group rates and student rates. So join us.
Thank you. And I guess Ed keeps saying that we should be giving away tickets, so we'll have to follow through on some plan for doing that in the future.
Your thing.
Anything else?
Well, for Kim and Angela Burnett, there's the Sunday New York Times book review of February 6th. Jason Reynolds, who was a recent author, was praising a book by our last author of the season, Ocean Vuong. So I don't know if you saw it, but if you didn't, I'll send it to you.
Please do. That'd be great. Jason Reynolds, he was a rock star, man. If you were there, you know what I'm talking about.
I was there virtually. But it's interesting because that was in the pre-read about book challenge. There were some book challenges in Baldwinsville to Jason Reynolds.
Okay. If there are no other discussions, no other questions or comments, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Ed, thank you. Do I hear a second?
I think Tim seconded it.
Tim's
I did.
trying. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I see some hand raised. I see some waving. Any board members want to stay longer? Then it's 5:12 by my clock. I think that we're done. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.